Welcome to Hormone Health for Real Life. We're Jenna and Jen, and we are so glad you're here.
If you've been searching for answers, looking for hope, or wondering why your body isn't responding the way it used to, you're in the right place. We believe our bodies are designed to heal.
Remember that this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not replace professional medical advice.
Now let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to today's podcast. We love talking about hormones because it's something that we've gotten to be very familiar with. We are talking about something called cycle syncing today. It's really fascinating once you start learning what your cycle is actually doing every month and what that means for how you feel, what you're craving, what your energy level is, and that's why it's called cycle syncing. And we're really excited to jump in and talk about how you can better cycle sync and figure out what your body's doing and feel more comfortable in your own skin.
Before we dive into that, let me ask you some questions, because here's the thing. There are a lot of myths floating around out there in our society about what our cycle should be. Ask yourself if you have said or heard any of the following. Something like, every woman just has PMS. It's just a part of life. Or maybe, being on a pill is totally helpful because it helps me regulate my period and it's the only way I can do that. Or maybe, yep, I'm just going to have cramps. That's just the way it is, and I just have to take the Advil and deal with it. Or maybe you have thought, I just have to deal with bad period symptoms every month because I'm a woman and there's just nothing I can do about it. Or maybe, and this one I said to myself for years, maybe you've thought, I am just better off without a period anyway. I just don't need it, so why is it still going? Like I said, those are myths because we have a solution for all of those. One thing that struck me after all those years of saying that last one, my youngest son is 18. I haven't done having kids for a long time, and yet here I am every single month having these horrible period symptoms, or at least I did for years, thinking, can I please just get rid of this? But something that stopped me in my tracks was a quote from the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. They have decreed that menstruation is the fifth vital sign. It's just as important as our pulse, temperature, breathing, and blood pressure.
Isn't that interesting? Because it's just so easy to make menstruation stop today. We have so many methods. Let me just set this aside and not have it because it makes life easier. Maybe that's because we just don't understand it.
I wouldn't say, oh man, I wish I didn't have a pulse. This is so annoying. So if menstruating every month is an indicator of my health, just like my pulse and my breathing and my blood pressure, it's important that we see what's happening, acknowledge what's happening, recognize when something is off, really know what our body is doing. I remember growing up and having fairly regular periods. I don't feel like mine were really bad, but then I had daughters, and my daughters were not functioning well during their period. They would have cramps so horrible that they would just be curled up on the couch in the fetal position, not functioning. Jenna and I started having conversations because Jenna has 4 daughters. We were both experiencing these same things, going, why is it so much harder for our daughters than it ever was for us? It's hard when you're the mom and you don't have any solutions other than, here's the Advil, take it as needed, and sorry. So we really dove in and tried to look for some answers.
I knew about my cycle to a certain degree, and I studied biology, and so I knew the process. But as far as putting it into a format like cycle syncing, it just opened my eyes to so many possibilities. There's so much we can do, and it's fun that it's being talked about a lot more than it used to be. And I feel like the conversation is good. When you love something, you're going to spend a lot of time studying that thing, whether it's music or dance or sports, whatever you're into. But let's take some time to actually study our bodies a little bit and get to know what the hormones are doing and what you can do to kind of help calm some of the crazy things that might be going on.
Growing up and through a lot of my adulthood, cycling as a woman, I didn't really consider my cycle anything other than the week that I was bleeding and didn't pay any attention to it the rest of the month. But what we've learned through all of our research is that our body is doing something different during every phase of the month, almost every week, and honestly, almost every day. And that falls right in line with what we see in nature. We see the phases of the moon, which for women is exactly how our body works. We see those cycles all over. We see the seasons roll from one to the next. We see life cycles of all different types of animals and insects. And that really is the way that nature works. We don't stay in the same place. We transition and we cycle through those rhythms, and our women's bodies absolutely do that too.
Learning to embrace the rhythm of your cycle means way more than just knowing when your period starts and how you feel during your period. We have this chart, we call it the roller coaster chart. The hormones are going up and down like a roller coaster. And when they do that properly, you actually should be feeling pretty good all month. Although you're going to feel different during the different phases because that's how it's meant to be. Estrogen rises during the first half of your cycle and then it falls. And it'd be hard to describe the whole chart without seeing it. So go ahead and look in the show notes. The chart will be there for you to see. When estrogen is high, our body's going to be doing something different than when our luteinizing hormone is high at ovulation. And then during our luteal phase, which is the phase right before your period, the progesterone is high. And so how do we support each of those hormones? Hopefully I didn't lose you with all that, because now we're going to take the idea that our hormones are going up and down and kind of go into more detail for the rest of this podcast so you can get a better grasp on what's going on with your body each and every month.
There's a lot of hormones going on all the time. But to simplify it for my non-scientific brain, I really do just focus on the estrogen and the progesterone. They are hormones who both want very, very different things. So when one is dominant, we want to support it quite differently than when the other one is. We cycle through 4 different phases throughout the month. To help us keep them straight, we have an acronym that we would like to share with you. And that acronym is GIFT, because we do truly feel like being a woman is a gift. And this beautiful God-given cycle that we have is a gift. As we go through these 4 phases, you will hear G for gear up, I for initiate, F for fulfill, and T for take it easy. Now let's dive into these phases. Right after our period ends, we start phase 1. We like to use the analogy of rotating through the year throughout the seasons. When our period is over, we enter phase 1, which is like our inner spring. It is the follicular phase, and it is the time for us to start this whole new beautiful cycle all over again. And we feel that. It's a time of new beginnings. It's a time of fresh starts. It's an idea phase where we all of a sudden have all of these great ideas that we can't wait to implement. So this is where G, gear up, comes in, because this is absolutely the phase of gearing up.
It's really funny because when I learned about cycle syncing and that phase 1 was this phase of ideas, I realized that naturally in my life, without really having broken this down and knowing all the details, that there were times of the month that I would get really chatty. I was chatty because I had all these ideas flowing into my head. And I have an idea. My husband, he'd be like, "Oh, really?" Just kind of being facetious, but wanting to listen, but just thinking it was funny because he's like, "Here we are. She's having a lot of ideas." Anyway, we didn't know it was my idea phase, but as I learned about this, I realized that this really was happening as my period started ending, my energy started rising. All of a sudden I had this new burst of energy and all these ideas started coming. And our brains are really primed for that. The rise in estrogen during this phase is going to help your brain function differently and be full of all sorts of fun ideas.
During phase 1, our estrogen is high. And there are some great things that we can do that support that estrogen. The way we eat is one of those things. Our estrogen loves a lower calorie diet. It just really craves the things that we would be craving in the spring. The fresh foods, the cool foods, and the lower calorie fruits and vegetables.
Interestingly, when you eat raw salads, raw vegetables, and things like that, it helps your body to break down excess estrogen. A lot of people are afraid to get their estrogen too high. So if you're eating these cool foods, it'll just kind of help meter that estrogen. And so you won't get these estrogen spikes.
Estrogen also loves movement. It loves cardio, hiking, cycling, really expending that energy that our body is creating during this phase of the month. With our estrogen going up here at the beginning of our cycle, our energy levels and our mood go up as well. Our mood improves, we feel better, we really are primed to gear up, start those new projects, have those ideas, and hit the ground running for phase one.
Moving into phase two, which is ovulatory. Phase two is the I in our GIFT acronym, and I is for initiate, because by now, when our estrogen levels have risen, we are feeling really good. And luteinizing hormone is high. Testosterone has a little spike, and testosterone is going to give us that burst of energy. It should feel like the phase that is just everything's coming together and we feel really good. As far as the seasons analogy, this is the summertime of our cycle. Interestingly, our temperature is a little bit warmer during this phase. So you might feel quite warm where you continue to eat those cool salads and raw foods because they actually support what your hormones are doing and they taste really good. They should feel really good to you. If you want to go vegan, this is a great time to do it. You can kind of avoid eating as many meats because meats are very warming. It's a time where you really feel like communicating with other people. So even if you're an introvert, you might feel a little bit more social during this time. And if you're an extrovert, you're living the dream. You're really feeling like gathering, playing with your kids, socializing with other people. And the movement goes with the energy where it's higher intensity. If you like things like kickboxing, boot camp, or power yoga, choose your level. You know your body better than anyone. Determine what your highest level of movement is and try to include it during phase two.
It's taking all those new ideas that we had in phase one and actually implementing them, initiating them, taking the steps to make them become a reality.
What you might be experiencing during this phase is clearer skin, heightened energy, heightened sex drive, and all of that just plays into this beautiful summertime every single month.
And then we move into phase three, which is our luteal phase. It's about the 10 to 14 days between ovulation and when our period is going to start. It's the longest of the phases, and it's our inner autumn. In our acronym, it's the F for fulfill, because we had all those great ideas, we initiated all those great ideas, and now we're really feeling ready to wrap up all those things that we've had going all month long. We feel a lot of nesting, or maybe that clutter pile on the counter that you haven't minded all month, all of a sudden it's driving you crazy and you need to take care of it.
Yeah.
So you'll find yourself finishing projects and clearing out the clutter, tying up all the loose ends.
For those of you who like to live off a checklist, this is the time of month to get that checklist done. It feels good to kind of work those projects out.
And the reason this is so different is because estrogen really has dominated phase one and two. But after ovulation, it dips and progesterone becomes the star here, and our progesterone goes up. So we want to eat very different for our progesterone. Progesterone really loves complex carbs, things like whole grains and beans and sweet potatoes and root vegetables and things that you think of as being in season during the fall. Our body really loves during that time. If you're like me and tend to crave sugar right before your period, it likely means that you are just not eating enough complex carbs. And so your body needing them tries to get them wherever it can, which often means we grab a candy bar or some sugar. When really, if we eat some beans and whole grains during that time, we won't have as heavy of sugar cravings because we're giving our body the calories that it needs. We also transition into less cardio and high intensity movement to more strength training and weightlifting. Because with the progesterone high, our muscles are primed to optimally build that muscle.
I love the season analogy because we live on a little farm. So a lot of this follows what the farm lifestyle looks like. If we back up just a bit to phase one, in the spring, we're planting. In the summer, we need to have high energy. We're weeding and just keeping things going. And in the fall, we bring in the harvest. And that's what it feels like. You're working hard. You're using your muscles a lot, your large muscle groups, and you're eating these things that are coming off, like the roots, the beets, the potatoes, the carrots, all that becomes a part of the diet, kind of like storing up for winter. I always love to think of autumn as that. Let's bring in the harvest. Let's check these things off. Let's get done what needs to get done.
As I work through phase 3 and I get closer to starting my period, my energy starts to drop. So I move from doing more weightlifting to more yin yoga or Pilates. As my energy decreases, so does my output of energy towards exercise.
If you're experiencing the PMS symptoms or sugar cravings, like you were talking about, or breast tenderness or bloating, it's good to look at what your nutrition is, what your movement is. Is it supporting that progesterone? Because if your progesterone's high during this phase, like it should be, then some of those symptoms will start to fall off the map as you shift what you're doing during this phase.
That is a chronic problem that we have, is low progesterone as women in our world today. So do all the things that you can to support that high progesterone during this phase.
As we continue forward in this podcast, we're going to go into more details about how you can raise that progesterone. Moving into phase 4, which is the winter phase. In our acronym of GIFT, this is time to take it easy. It's nice to have kind of an end goal. I will say that living on a farm, it's nice to be done and hibernate, if you will, because resting is just so important. And that's what we get to do in the winter phase. Restore, reflect, look inward, review progress that you made over the last month. It's interesting thinking about how I had kind of fallen into this before I knew about cycle syncing. I went back and looked at my journal and realized that I was pretty consistent at writing about once a month, and I tied it to this phase. It's like my body wanted to review, and I would just write things down. I thought, oh, how interesting that our brains are kind of primed for that during this phase.
We've talked before about rushing women's syndrome. During this phase, our body wants to rest. I know I felt the need to rest, but didn't give myself permission. So knowing that that's what my body needs has changed everything as I've allowed myself to take that little break and let my body rest.
Yeah, I remember getting down on myself too, because I feel like I would get into like a new exercise routine and be really excited about it and then do really well for a couple weeks and then fall off. My period would start and I'd be like, well, that's fine. That shouldn't change my exercise. I would really be down on myself. And now I totally understand. Rest and then restart your exercise routine when you're done with your period and take the time. Because if you rest now, your hormones are going to be primed to do what they're supposed to do for the whole rest of your cycle, and you'll be way more effective later on. So it's kind of that sharpen the saw principle. Take the time to step back. You can do exercise for sure. It depends on where you're at with your exercise. It might be taking a nap and just resting. It might be slow walks. It could be some gentle yoga. If you're training for a marathon or like super active, it could be only running a couple miles instead of your 10 miles or whatever it is. You'll just have to figure out where you're at and how you can allow your body to rest.
And when we say rest, we don't mean camp out on the couch with your bonbons and watch TV all day long. Life has to happen. Laundry still has to get done. Meals still have to be made. Go throughout your life in a state of restfulness. If you have the option, maybe choose to stay home when you can, but absolutely do life just in a restful way.
Talking about foods, warm foods generally feel better because your temperature literally drops. And so even that little minuscule drop in temperature, you'll feel it. You'll walk into a normal room and you'll feel cold. Where during your ovulation phase, you'll walk into the same room and maybe feel like it's too warm. Feed your body the warming foods, soups, stews. It's a good time to eat meat. It's okay to take the time to rest and relax. And it's okay to let those in your life know that that's where you're at. Let your husband know, hey, I just need some extra rest this week. Let your kids know we're going to snuggle up and read a book today because that's kind of the mood you're in. When the hormones are low, which is what's happening during phase 4, estrogen's low, progesterone's low, your testosterone's low, it generally means lower energy. It's okay to slow down, let your body prepare for another beautiful rhythmic cycle.
And then we roll right over once our period ends into phase 1 again, and we do this again. I know now that I know this and I'm paying attention, I do feel these hormone fluctuations. I do feel the heightened energy. I do feel the dips in energy. And it really makes all the difference to honor those. And I'm so glad that I've learned to give myself permission to honor those.
If you're not feeling that right now, it's okay. So, what we're explaining to you is the ideal. This is how you should be feeling, but there's a lot of toxins. We've shut down our cycle in a lot of different ways. There's a lot of endocrine disruptors out there that have totally affected this. So, don't feel like I'm just a mess and this isn't going to work for me. Just hang on. We're going to talk through this in future episodes because we wanted you to know the layout of the situation. Be educated on what the ideal is, even if you don't fall right into the ideal. It's okay. As you start working through some of the ways that we're going to go over, you're going to start feeling a difference and picking out the different phases of your cycle. And then you'll be able to see where it's off, where it's wrong, and maybe adjust so that you can start feeling better in your own skin.
If you loved what you heard today, we have some really great resources for you. We took all of the nuances of these four phases and put them all into one really beautiful page that you can download and print out and keep posted in your bedroom or in the kitchen to remind you of all these beautiful phases. Find that link down in the show notes. Print that out to get you started.
Thanks for being with us today. Good luck as you go forward and cycle sync and implement some of the things that we talked about.